What's up, guys? Chris Flick here, Chris Flick Podcast, episode number 123. Today we're going to be talking about having no mind, losing our mind a little bit here when we're getting engaged in physical activity. And what do I mean by that is when you watch a sport, say like football, you got these great quarterbacks over the years, from Tom Brady to Peyton Manning to Drew Brees. These guys were able to complete these, like dozens of decisions potentially in just a mere few seconds. They're able to almost think without thinking. They have this unconscious thought going on in their brains that's going to allow them to kind of make the right decision. Now, how do they get to this point? One, you got experience, right? They've been playing the game for a while. That helps. Another one is film study. Another one is just is to be totally immersed in the game. You're constantly playing it. You're constantly thinking about it. You're constantly studying it. And one of these techniques that one could use if they want to get better at an athletic endeavor is this idea of ideomotor training. Now, basically what this is, there's this old story about a Vietnam War, prisoner of war, and he never played golf. My understanding is that he never played golf, but while he was locked up in this prison camp, he visualized himself playing 18 holes, 36 holes, 72 holes, whatever it was. And when he was able to get out of that prison camp and get back home into America, he was able to play golf at a much higher level than any other beginner. Why? Because he visualized himself. He literally went through the steps. How he was going to set his feet, the temperature, the wind, how he struck the ball, where the ball landed, all that stuff. So ideomotor training is basically imagining an action, recalling an action in the mind, or practice in the mind, applying the use of imagery. So, going back to that football example, you got a guy like Drew Brees. He's going to go through all these plays. He's going to go through the first series of plays and then some. He might even go over the whole game in his mind. He might go and take, his 3-step drop, 5-step drop, rollout, shotgun, under center, whatever it may be. And he might literally physically simulate that stuff. There's not a defense out there, but he's going through everything in his mind. Why is he doing that? Because when all of those different scenarios that he goes through in his mind, when they present himself, he's going to be much better for it. He's going to be much more willing he's going to be much better able to handle whatever the opposition throws his way. That athlete, he could, recall an image of a certain movement that he saw in one of those defensive players, a certain technique that one guy uses versus the other. If he sees all this stuff in his mind, not just once on film, but 10 times, 15 times, 20 times in his brain, he's going to be able to improve on it. This ideomotor training idea, it speeds up the learning process. It allows you to kind of perfect and hone your skills, and it allows you to retain some movement skills or some movement practices that you last worked on the game or practice field. If you're in the weight room and you just accomplished a lift, right? There's a big thing in that community where, hey, if I have to deadlift this, or if I have to hit a snatch with a certain weight, if I sit down and I visualize myself, everything, all the parameters, all the factors, right? If I could sit back and visualize myself doing that 10 times a night, 20 times a night, walk up to the bar, setting your grip, having your feet set, where are your eyes, all that stuff. You try to ingrain that in your brain. You try to see yourself being successful, accomplishing something. Now, I don't think you could just steal, a line from Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, right? I don't think you could think, hey, I'm going to deadlift 1,000 pounds next week because I'm going to visualize myself doing it 500 times a day. It doesn't have that. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, if you're trying to get from 190 pounds to 200 pounds, and you need to get there kind of soon, you could use these practices to get you to reach your goal, hopefully in a more efficient, sooner way. And just to kind of sum up what this does, the goal of ideomotor training is to recall and practice in the mind an accurate, detailed image of movement skill. There's 3 physical components: your space, your time, and your strength. The space being used is the direction and the range of motion. The time is the speed of movement, and the strength is the degree of muscle tension. So you're thinking about this stuff every time you're trying to perform that rep. Now, once you have that visualization part down, you could also kind of hone in on your technique a little bit like that. And Marty Gallagher, great one of the greatest, lifting coaches of all time. They call him the Forrest Gump of training. He gives you a good checklist on how to visualize for this ideomotor training. Here's what he recommends. Eyes closed. View the scene as if you were viewing yourself through a movie camera. Watch yourself warm up and prepare. Imagine your setup. See it, feel it, breathe it. Watch yourself break the record. Pay attention to the speed. If done properly, there should be some form of physical manifestation. Practice makes perfect. Try 1 or 2 prior to the top set. Open your eyes and recreate your waking dream. Don't overplay your hand. Save both of these methods for the big sets. So when you're about to perform and you're sitting back at the competition, you could sit there and you could think about what you need to do. You could take those breaths. You could see yourself successfully lifting that bar. You don't hype yourself up. You don't burn into those, limited reserves that you have of energy. You don't, psych yourself out, so to speak. You stay calm and cool. You breathe, you visualize, and you complete the task. Now, when we get to this point, this thinking without thinking, this no mind, meditating monks, they seek a state of no mind where all internal dialogue is ceased. There is no what ifs. There is no if he does that, I do this. If he does this, I do that, right? One of the biggest mistakes that I would see when I was coaching, say quarterbacks, is that people, other coaches on the staff might be like, hey, if he does this, you have to do that. And if he takes a step this way, you throw this way, blah, 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 blah. And what you're doing there is you're putting too much insight in that kid's brain. Too much input, in that kid's brain. What you want is to allow them to see and react to spaces, to things that occur, not necessarily all this binary if and then statements. You got to prepare them with film study. You got to prepare them with practice. You have to talk to them, see the field, understand certain situations, so that when those situations arise, they're going to be able to conquer and overcome any kind of obstacle, right, that the opposition throws. If you are thinking about what the opposition is doing, then your brain is preoccupied. Internal commentary prevents us from perceiving reality. If we're talking to ourselves with all of these if-then statements as we're looking on the playing field, then my brain is not going to be able to perceive what is actually going on. There's too much thought going on in here, and it's going to give me like that closed, it's going to put the blinders on. And I'm not going to be able to see the field in a way that I need to see the field. Our human brain is like a muscle. If it's overworked and overtrained, a mental breakdown will occur. Performance will degrade. Do not overburden your athletes with too much brain work, too much input. Let's keep your instructions clear and concise. Let's get rid of all of the laundry list of if-thens. And let's get our athletes playing at a high level and not slowing them down, not bogging them down with too much input. The Zen brain, subjected to continual daily practice, eventually grows quiet, and in that quietude, an electric alertness emerges, during which no thought arises. It's our goal to get that kind of brain, that no mind that we kind of talked about. It's getting in the zone. Where your heart rate might be elevated, but you're still cool, calm, and collected. You're seeing everything that needs to be seen, and you're able to play at a high level, no matter what circumstances are around, whether there's 10,000 fans in the stands or only just 10. And lastly, conversation during competition with outside people is going to prevent heightened awareness. It's going to add chatter. It's going to add some preoccupation. And all of these things are going to impede performance. Ideomotor training. Visualize yourself. See yourself doing these things. We want to get to that point where we're thinking without thinking, so to speak. That no mind. Eliminating the internal chatter. Accomplishing great things. And progressing to areas and levels that we've never thought were possible. Hope you guys like this one. Peace, everybody.